To the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the bill, House Bill 1341. And what it does is it protects animal species which are endangered and threatened by extinction by prohibiting the trafficking here in Colorado. This bill prohibits the sale, purchase, or the trade of any covered animal part with limited exemptions. And this includes the animals that you see on your bill paper, and they are considered endangered species. These are not animals that we find in Colorado. Elephants, rhinos, tigers, lions, leopards, cheetahs, pangolins, marine turtles, sharks, and rays. It's
lion earrings.
It's necessary to discourage the substantiated illegal trade of these animals or their parts, and removing the financial incentives that encourage the poaching of these species. Why do we need a state law? Asked all the time in committee. To supplement the federal law, because the federal laws are riddled with exemptions and make enforcement difficult. The feds say they are only catching about 10% of the illegal animal parts coming into the country, but most of your expert scientists will say that it's approximately 2%. The federal law doesn't protect all of the species that our Colorado bill does. For example, the Endangered Species Act, that's the federal law, does not cover pangolins, the world's most trafficked animal, or sharks or rays. Federal law only protects lions, leopards, and cheetahs, depending upon the country that they come from. 1341 is an intra-state bill. It refers to trade inside the state of Colorado. Normally, the feds can only regulate at the international border or sales across state lines, for example, from Colorado to Kansas or Colorado to Nebraska. So to have an intrastate enforcement, you need this state law. The mere existence of these animals in this bill is so dire that we need both the federal and the state protection that this bill is aiming to do. The overlap of state and federal laws provides additional enforcement. The endangered species problem involving poaching and trafficking is complex, and it requires multiple levels to ensure commercial trade. It doesn't contribute to the slaughter of these majestic animals. This is not restricting gun owners, hunters, or sportsmen. The U.S. Congress had two recent bills, recently. Ivory Protection Act of 2014 that was sponsored by a Republican from Tennessee by the name of Lamar Alexander, and an African Elephant Legal Ivory Possession Act in 2015, another Republican from Alaska by the name of Don Young. This first bill, the one in 2014, died, and the second bill is endangered. Let's say it's on the red list, basically. That illustrates how difficult it is to get a trade ban through Congress. So this is a perfect example of why the states are trying to pass endangered species laws. And with that, I ask for a yes vote on this bill.
Representative McCann.
Yes, I would just very briefly say that this bill is important. Wildlife trafficking is one of the most lucrative forms of illegal activity in the world. Trading is estimated to be in the nature of $23 billion. And as we know, elephants and rhinos are being slaughtered by poachers. About 35,000 elephants are killed every year by poachers to supply the demand for ivory. Sometimes, well, often their tusks are just ripped out of them, off their body, and they are left to die a long, slow, and painful death. In 2015, 1,305 rhinos were killed by poachers in Africa. Arguably the most, to supply rhino horn, arguably the most valuable wildlife product in illegal trade. and up to 100 million sharks are killed annually just for their fins. They're often, again, the fins are ripped off, the sharks are left to die a painful and slow death. So actually, the United States is one of the largest consumers of illegal wildlife products, and the patchwork of federal and international laws make it difficult to enforce. So state-level bans close loopholes and make enforcement easier. So we do know that these items are being imported into Colorado. They are, the Fish and Wildlife Service does confiscate those they find coming in through DIA, but this bill will allow for statewide enforcement of this important area. We had several school children testify, both high school and elementary school kids at our committee hearing, who talked about how they would like to be able to see these animals as they grow up, and they would like their grandchildren and children to be able to see these animals. It was a very compelling testimony. One young man, one of my constituents, who's a 9th grader at East High School, brought in hundreds of signatures on petitions that he had personally collected from other young people who want us, as the guardians of their futures, to make sure that they have these animals, that there are still these animals living as they grow up. So I would ask for an aye vote